Imagine your country strikes oil. Billions of dollars start pouring in. What do? If you're most countries, you spend it. Roads, stadiums, subsidies, salaries. And then one day, the oil runs out. And so does everything else. But Norway did something almost no one else has ever done. They saved it. Almost all of it. And today, that decision has made them one of the wealthiest nations on earth. Not just for now, but potentially forever. This is the story of the world's biggest piggy bank and the small country wise enough to fill it. In 1969, a drilling rig in the North Sea hit something unexpected, one of the largest offshore oil fields ever found. Norway, a nation of fishermen and farmers, had just become an oil giant overnight. The money was staggering. By the 1970s and 80s, petrodollars were flooding into the Norwegian economy. And here's where it gets interesting, because this is exactly the moment most countries go wrong. Economists have a name for it: Dutch disease. It's what happens when a sudden resource boom floods a country with cash, inflating the currency, making other industries uncompetitive, and creating an economy dangerously hooked on a single export. Nigeria experienced it, Venezuela experienced it catastrophically. Even the Netherlands, where the term was coined, saw its manufacturing sector collapse after a major gas discovery in the 1950s. Norway could see the trap, and they decided to build a way around it. In 1983, an economist named Herman Skanland, the former governor of Norway's central bank, chaired a committee that put forward a radical proposal. Don't spend the oil money inside Norway. Put it abroad. Create a sovereign wealth fund, invested in global markets, and only ever spend the returns, not the principal. Let future generations benefit too, not just the people lucky enough to be alive during the boom. It took nearly a decade to get political traction, but in 1990 the Norwegian parliament passed a law creating what they called the Government Petroleum Fund. The first real deposit didn't arrive until 1996, just $2 billion. Nobody could have guessed what it would become. The rules were simple but strict. Every krone the government earned from oil, taxes, royalties, dividends from the state energy company went straight into the fund, no exceptions. The fund then invested that money overseas, in global stocks, bonds, and real estate across 71 countries. The logic was clever. By keeping the money out of Norway, they avoided overheating their own economy. Norwegian industries stayed competitive. The krone didn't go haywire. Dutch disease was sidestepped entirely. And the returns? Remarkable. Since 1998, the fund has delivered an average annual return of 6.6%. By 2019, it crossed $1 trillion. By the end of 2025, it had grown to over $2 trillion, the single largest sovereign wealth fund on Earth. To put that in perspective, that's roughly $380,000 for every single person living in Norway. Having a fund isn't enough. Plenty of countries have tried and failed. What made Norway's version different was the discipline around spending it. There's a rule called the fiscal rule. The government can only spend up to 3% of the fund's value each year, roughly equivalent to its expected long-term return. That means Norway lives off the interest, not the capital. The nest egg stays intact. The fund also operates with strict ethical guidelines. Companies involved in weapons production, environmental destruction, or corruption can be excluded entirely. Transparency is non-negotiable. Every investment is publicly disclosed. This wasn't luck. This was a political choice, made and maintained across decades and multiple governments, to act like stewards rather than lottery winners. Oil doesn't make countries rich. Decisions make countries rich. Venezuela has among the world's largest proven oil reserves and is in economic collapse. Nigeria has been pumping oil for 60 years and still struggles with widespread poverty. Norway discovered oil later than both and now sits on a $2 trillion fund growing every single year. The difference wasn't geology. It was the willingness to delay gratification, build institutions, and think in generations rather than election cycles. Norway saved its oil money, and in doing so, it may have created something even more valuable than oil ever was, a model that proves restraint, done right, is the most powerful resource of all. If you found this interesting, there's a whole world of stories like this one, about the decisions, hidden mechanisms, and quiet choices that shape how the world actually works. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.